Supposed biblical error. The Census of Quirinius mentioned by Luke. Luke chapter 2 begins with, "In those days a decree went out from Caesar Augustus, that all the world should be registered. This was the first registration when Quirinius was governor of Syria. And all went to be registered, each to his own town. And Joseph also went up from Galilee, from the town of Nazareth, to Judea, to the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be registered with Mary, his betrothed, who was with child." Skeptics will usually assert 4 problems. 1. In a Roman census, Joseph would not have to travel to Bethlehem, but could register at his current residency. Mary would not have to register at all. 2. No Roman census would have been conducted in Judea, while Herod the Great ruled until 4 BC. 3. There was never a single census conducted of the entire Roman Empire. It was done in sections. And 4. Quirinius was not governor until 6 AD. Jesus was born under Herod the Great, so this could not be the census Quirinius conducted in 6 to 7 AD. So how do we resolve these issues? Well, the first issue is incorrect, because we do have historical data people had to travel to their place of origin for a census. A papyrus which dates to 104 AD states that the prefect of Egypt ordered Egyptians to return to their place of origin so the census could be carried out. Plus, it was more likely Jews would need to be in their place of origin for a census, since Jewish law stated their property was the property of their fathers. Harold Hoehner says, "The Romans would comply to the custom of laying claim to one's family estate in order to assess it for taxation. Every person needed to appear to be questioned so as to make a proper assessment of his property. So it is likely Joseph would need to be in his place of origin for property assessment. It would also be logical that Mary would have gone with Joseph, since rumors appeared to have existed of how she became pregnant, and since the marriage had not been consummated yet, it is likely Joseph would have wanted her close by for protection from insults and shaming." The second supposed error assumes Augustus would not have conducted censuses in vassal kingdoms, like that of Herod the Great. But there is also historical data to challenge this. Josephus tells us around 7 BC Herod fell out of favor with Augustus, and was treated more like a subject than a friend. This means Herod's autonomy would have been taken away. Add that to the fact that Herod was getting old, and his sons would fight for future rule of the area, so it would have been a perfect time to assess that region before Herod died to prepare for the future of the area. Josephus also tells us the people of Herod's domain swore allegiance to Herod and Augustus, which leads us to the conclusion Rome had a greater involvement in Herod's kingdom, and it was not so autonomous. The third issue can be resolved by looking at what Luke actually says. Hoehner says, Luke uses the present tense, indicating that Augustus ordered censuses to be taken regularly, rather than only one time. Thus it is reasonable to believe that there was an order of a general census in the time of Augustus. Sir William Ramsay said, "The decree of Augustus, which Luke mentions, is commonly interpreted as ordering that a single census should be held of the whole Roman world. That is not a correct interpretation of Luke's words. He uses the present tense, and he means that Augustus ordered enrollments to be regularly taken, according to the strict and proper usage of the present tense." The final issue has 2 plausible explanations. The first is that the census was started during Herod the Great, but was not completed and finalized until Quirinius. Scholar Darrell Bach explains it like this.
Augustus got organized to take this census. This census took place somewhere between 6 and 4 BC, or at least the beginning mechanizations of it. But it wasn't actually executed until we got to Quirinius. In other words, he's the one who took the data, put it together, presented it for Rome, and Rome actually began to make use of it for taxation under Quirinius. So this is a long process. I like to make the analogy of when they build a major freeway in a city. Sometimes it takes a while between the planning of the freeway and the actual building of the freeway and the completion of the freeway. There's a freeway here in Dallas, Central Expressway, was 30 years from the planning to the completion of the exercise. My own take is that this census became associated with Quirinius because he's the one who completed it, but he wasn't the one who was responsible for starting it.
This would be consistent with what Josephus tells us about Herod Archelaus, who was reigning before Quirinius. Josephus tells us Archelaus turned Judea into a mess while he was reigning. He was disposed of by the Roman Empire, and Quirinius was brought in to fix a lot of the problems he created. The second explanation is to look at the words Luke uses and make an inference. The actual word Luke uses we translate as governor is hegemon, which is used to refer to a wide range of Roman official positions, and not necessarily governor. He also says it was the first census under Quirinius. which implies there were more after this one, and Luke even mentions the one in 6 AD in Acts 5. So it is possible Luke was not talking about the census of 6 AD, but one prior to that, possibly when he was acting as procurator under Varus or Saturninus. Thus, Luke's statement doesn't contradict our historical knowledge of the Roman world at that time. Tertullian even noted in his time the imperial records recorded that censuses were being conducted in Judea around the time of Varus or Saturninus. Of course, it is not proven, since we lack extensive data of the life of Quirinius. But the point is there is no direct evidence Luke contradicted other historical data. It could have been that the census was started, but not completed and finalized until Quirinius. Or there could just have been a less well-known census in that area, which Quirinius was procurator of. William Ramsay also provided an extensive account that Quirinius was most likely in the region during the time of Christ's birth. Therefore, this supposed biblical error can be resolved.